Seth Rollins had to wrestle 2 times last night. The great Kazoo made his return to Monday Night Raw. We also talk about fans who do not need to jump the guardrail. And, of course, with Sting, apparently all statue lives don't matter. We're going to talk more about that on this week's Monday Night Raw review, powered by Google Hangouts. Prepare to warp.
Hi, I'm Chris Rogers from Rockin' Waves 11294, and you're watching WGS-TV.
Greetings, everyone. You have worked your way in from the tube into another installment of WGS-TV right here on youtube.com/WrestleGamer. I am the WrestleGamer. Don't be Billy Boudreaux. Today is Tuesday, September 8, 2015, and what we're going to be talking about today, guys, is Monday Night Raw from last night. We got a lot to talk about, to be rather honest. And joining me on the Raw review this week, ladies and gentlemen, he is the host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio from youtube.com/HWR show. He is the hardcore one himself, Rick Head. Rick, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right, Billy. Thanks for having me. And I have to say, it was good to see Christian and Edge back on Raw.
Oh, yeah, it definitely was. It definitely was. Let's start with the opening segment with Seth Rollins coming out here to address the fact of the statue. And you kind of got the sense that Baltimore was kind of semi-IWC because they were cheering when he was talking about taking care of John Cena. Then they started booing him about when he started talking about Sting. So, yeah, with the IWC, it's, one thing we've learned about the IWC in the past, Rick, is that they're incredibly finicky, in my opinion.
Well, I think is what it is obviously most wrestling fans. I mean, they have the ones who they like to get behind. Some people get behind Sting, other people get behind Cena, and it sometimes it flip flops. Just the way things go, and that's just the way wrestling world's always been.
Do you think they were getting behind him when he started calling out Sheamus and said that Sheamus looked stupid?
You know what? I wouldn't say he was getting behind Sheamus, more getting behind the comment, because obviously the "you look stupid" is such a big, thing with the fans. So obviously the fans were just, going on that as opposed to getting over on Rollins. It certainly helped them.
Definitely. Opening matchup on this week's Monday Night Raw featured Paige and Sasha Banks. And again, I've said it many, many times, the NXT Divas have really made the main roster Divas more interesting again. Now, there have been a couple of instances where I personally believe that the storyline is played out, that they shouldn't be doing it anymore. However, WWE creative insists that, that we continue to see it. But be that as it may, they still put on great matches, and that's what we got out of Paige and Sasha Banks. And I do recall some instances of the fans chanting "boring," not just during that match, but during the Seth Rollins promo as well. But it was a good matchup, in my personal opinion. Paige had Sasha Banks in a small package, and while the referee was distracted, Naomi came in, reversed it behind the referee's back. So apparently now that constitutes Paige being unable to kick out of a small package pin, and therefore Sasha Banks picks up the win. That's all I can say about that one. Now, Rick, this is something we've talked about many, many times, that I completely 100% disagree with what WWE creative is doing with the Ascension. They could do so much more with these two guys. They were so prevalent in NXT as probably one of the dominant tag teams in NXT history. They put them over as two monster heels, and then they bring them up to the main roster, and again, this is something I've said for a long time, they lose them in the mid-card shuffle because they got basically squashed by Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. Now, I can understand them wanting to push those two because they have an angle with them against the Wyatt family coming up as champions, and they got to push and promote that. But they're passing the Ascension over basically now as jobbers, and I don't agree with that.
I have to a point, I see where you're coming from, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could see a turn pretty soon, because what they do is they actually team them up with Stardust, and now they are the Cosmic Wastelands. Excuse me if that wasn't with the right place.
I think it was.
And, you know, I think it's the start of something good. For one thing, if you notice, there's a lot of three-man tag teams forming. You know, there was a rumor, of course, about who the third guy was going to be that was going to join. I call the Shield Brothers. And I think it's clearly obvious now that it's Randy Orton. Now, the way I see it happening, all this happening, I'm wondering if back in when Survivor Series comes around November, could we see 3-man Survivor Series as opposed to a 5-man? I'm wondering if they're building up to that.
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, if they actually were building up to that. But following that, we would get the announcement that Seth Rollins would be involved in 2 different matches to kind of, which everybody said, get him ready for Night of Champions. The first one would be champion versus champion, Seth Rollins versus Ryback, and the other one would be the main event, the 6-man tag, with Seth Rollins and the New Day teaming up with the Primetime Players and John Cena. The first one would be Ryback and Seth Rollins, and that turned out to be a really, really good match. But again, this is apparently a night of small packages, because apparently Seth Rollins would be distracted by Sting, and apparently that was enough of a distraction for Ryback to trap him in a small package and pick up the win. And then, Rick, would you kind of say that following that, what they did with Sting on the Titantron was kind of a glimpse of Joker Sting from TNA Impact? Because what he did was kind of hilarious.
Yeah, you know, I would have to agree with you there. Sting always does great promos, no matter what kind of gimmick he's doing. Even back when he was a Beach Sting, he did great. And then, of course, he changed over to the Crow Sting, which was truly epic in its time. It's still epic now. And then when he did the Joker Sting over in TNA, a lot of people didn't like that, but I found it rather entertaining.
I sure did as well. And you kind of got a glimpse of that because he was going up and down like he was playing peekaboo with Seth Rollins on the Titantron. I thought that was hilarious. Following that backstage, Seth Rollins obviously frustrated. Then he gets stopped by the New Day, of all people, because they got to get ready, and apparently they wanted to install the power of positivity for their match. And they would get confronted by Edge and Christian. And apparently Edge still has a little bit of a bone to pick with Seth Rollins for what they did to bring the Authority back into power. If you guys remember that, they tried to assault Edge and threatened to break his neck if John Cena didn't put the Authority back in power. And then apparently Xavier wanted to go into a musical battle with Edge and Christian, the trombone versus the great kazoo, the battle kazoo. And I gotta say, I love bringing that. And then Big E kind of ate the kazoo. But here's one thing that's what I consider, Rick, to be a blast from the past. It's the fact that the Dudley Boyz backed up Edge and Christian. And seeing those two teams together just brings back so many memories of all of the great matches they've had, not only against each other, but the TLC matches they've had with the Hardy Boys and these guys. Just seeing that, I just like seeing that again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can. Absolutely. First off, it's great to see the Dudley Boys back. Edge and Christian, I think they're not going to be coming back due to both of their officially retired, and Edge's neck injury. So, excuse me, as I get the hiccups here, that's just not going to happen. But I would like to see them more in an on-screen personality type of a gimmick, because even though they can't be in the ring, doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be on screen and be on-screen characters as opposed to just doing nothing. To a point, I agree with you, and I see that them maybe doing a few more stops as WrestleMania comes up. And this year's WrestleMania is supposed to be the WrestleMania of the Legends, so I could definitely see them making an appearance.
Following that, we would have probably one of the most ridiculous segments I've ever seen in my life. It's Summer Rae wanting to apologize to Rusev, and I shit you not, ladies and gentlemen, that apparently now she has a pet name for Rusev that nearly made me want to barf. Rick, I don't know if you remember what it was, but she called him Ruru. And if we ever had a face palm moment of the night, it's that one right there. And like, oh my God. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. And that was just a terrible segment overall. And I think this whole storyline, you just got to change it over to, like as the heel turns,
And then, of course, Dolph Ziggler would come out to confront Rusev and whatnot, and would end up delivering a message from Lana in the form of a super kick. The story, now they even mentioned it of Lana's wrist being broken, and from what I've heard from different sites like E-Wrestling and SES Scoops, it was that she injured her wrist, broke her wrist training, and they suspect her probably to be out for the rest of the year. Apparently, so we might not see. If we could, I would like to see more. Like I said, they could use her on screen. They can't do anything physically with her, but I think she can still be physically prevalent in the online, in the on story of on camera thing. I'm learning how to talk right now. As a commentator, I should have learned how to talk already. But anyway, following that would be Sheamus and Randy Orton again. Notice I said again, and. It was a good match, but I got one pet peeve about this, Rick. Why is it that whenever Randy Orton connects with the RKO, that it's always an RKO out of nowhere? You kind of get what I'm saying? Because whenever the commentators do it, whenever the commentators announce it, it's always an RKO out of nowhere. But here's well, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Sorry, my headset was having little issues. The reason why I think they do the RKO out of nowhere now is because became so popular over the internet, and they want to keep that role going. So obviously, it's more of just it's just this thing that they want to add on. As far as the Randy Orton / Sheamus match, I have no idea. Yes, great match, but the problem is we've seen it over and over and over again. You might as well just take that match and just put it on like a tape and just play it over.
Now, here's where it gets painfully obvious that WWE creative have absolutely no idea what the hell they're doing. And not only that, but they're becoming so predictable in their creative and writing their storylines that it just becomes painful to watch. It's always been a big mystery, because they actually haven't physically revealed who the third man is to be the partner of Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns for Night of Champions. But the way that they executed the angle and the storyline, that if it's not Randy Orton, I'm going to be 100% shocked. They showed Randy Orton backstage before the match, talking to Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns. And then after the match was over, they had the Wyatt family assault Randy Orton. Now, if they do not follow up with that, with Randy Orton wanting to get revenge on the Wyatt family for what they did, and they have him be the partner, and I will say this, Rick, to me, that would be an official swerve by WWE Creative. Hello, Rick. You might want to check your mic again.
Sorry about that. A lot of people, especially over on the internet, was suggesting that Baron Corbin of NXT was going to be that third guy. And I'm going to tell you, from the jump street when I saw that, I'm like, absolutely, positively not, because it makes no sense. Now, Corbin, great wrestler, but I think he needs to play as a heel. Bringing him from heel to a babyface would not fit. It wouldn't fit his character that they've been building. It just didn't fit at all to me. So I personally killed that rumor myself from the start. With Randy Orton now, I think that's exactly who the third person is going to be. I mean, like you said, if they swerve that, it makes no sense, and it's kind of an actually stupid reason to put that much emphasis on that.
But like I said, I think it might be a good thing, though, because of the fact that I've always said it, when WWE becomes, or wrestling in general becomes predictable, it becomes boring. And if they go a different route beyond Randy Orton, then it would actually hold my interest, to be honest. But anyway, following that, Los Matadors and the Dudley Boyz, and I think we can safely say now, Rick, that the bullfighter gimmick has officially died in WWE.
You know, and I hate to say it, it's not a moment too soon. Because if you look at what happened, the El Torito, he was the one that was over, and the Matadors weren't. And that is a problem. That's, you know, so they had to get rid of him. And now the big question is, will they get over now without him?
And I think they can't. I honestly think they can't. I mean, they couldn't get themselves over as Primo and Epico by themselves, and the only thing that fans really were interested in because of their gimmick was El Torito. And now that they kind of kicked into the curb and kind of gone full heel, I really don't know. It all depends on how they execute it. Execution is key when it comes to pulling out successful storylines and successful angles in the wrestling industry. And if they can execute it properly, then possibly they can get over by themselves. But if they can't, they need to kick them to the curb, unfortunately. The Dudley Boyz would end up picking up the win with the, of course, with the 3D. And then, of course, as they saw El Torito being bullied, the Dudley Boyz, as I instruct my brother Justin to go answer the phone, they decided that the Dudley Boyz weren't going to have none of that, and they would take the other Matador and, of course, put him through a table. So that ends that. Cesaro in the Miz. And this is something I've heard. I don't know where it is, Justin. One thing I've heard a lot of people say, putting Cesaro into the category of a jobber, and I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment, because Cesaro has been putting, my definition of a jobber is talent enhancement. Somebody who gets whose sole job is to go up there and make the other talent look good. Cesaro puts on amazing matches. And one moment I definitely got to credit them, and I got to give them props, because I told everybody on Facebook last night, Rick, that I was going to do this. The spot that I loved was on the outside, Cesaro doing the running Cesaro uppercut while wearing JBL's cowboy hat. I thought that was great, man. Microphone, Rick.
Sorry, as I keep my microphones on and off here. Well, I have to tell you, I think that I agree with you 100%, because Cesaro really is probably, he's an incredible worker. And I think over the past maybe month or 2 months, he really has upped his game. Why WWE just still continues to keep him at the mid-card status makes no sense to me. He surely does need to move up higher, and the fans are behind him.
Yeah, of course. And now with this new following called the Cesaro Section, and the Miz was kind of backstage before the match up in their promo, kind of trying to pitch the idea of the Cesaro Nation. And I wouldn't be surprised for them to up that, to go from Cesaro Section to Cesaro Nation. I would not be surprised with that, as the popularity of Cesaro continues to grow and grow, and he's been coming on really, really strong as of late. But officially, what they did here on this match is the Big Show would come out, chase Miz away, and Miz would end up being counted out, I believe. And then, as Big Show was walking by, for no other reason than just to do it, Big Show KO punches Cesaro and knocks him out. So, the only thing I can say about this, Rick, this screams triple threat.
Again, if I'm not mistaken, didn't these three already have a couple of triple threats?
No, Big Show and Miz with Ryback, but not with Cesaro.
Yeah, okay, but even still, you still have 2 out of the 3 people working together. Miz and Big Show obviously are going to continue to work with each other. It's like, and the fact that Cesaro was in there, okay, I think that's bringing him down rather than pushing him up.
Now, this confrontation that happened with Team Bella and Team PCB, to me was a point to, if you look at it from the point of it being almost a go-home show, of them putting the challenger over on the champion on the go-home show. And traditional wrestling logic, and notice I said traditional wrestling logic, almost dictates 99% of the time that when the challenger goes over on a go-home show, that 99% of the time that they would not be winning the championship. Now, I don't know if this would necessarily equate to what happened with Charlotte and Nikki Bella. I think there are a lot of fans who don't want to see Nikki break AJ Lee's championship streak. But at the same time, for some odd reason, there are fans that do want to see it. I don't know why. But, it all depends on the route they go, and they just basically made Charlotte look really strong against Nikki Bella last night. Rick, any thoughts on this?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I have to agree with you that WWE is very, very vindictive, and they do not like that when someone leaves the company. 99 out of 100 times, they want somebody else to beat that record. And obviously, it looks as if Nikki Bella could very well beat that. The only way I could possibly see this really working out very, very well, they've been working on this little time clock, the countdown, so to speak.
The Bellatron.
The Bellatron, thank you. Now, how would this sound for a scenario? They go in and have a match, and Charlotte beats her just 1 second before the Bellatron hits.
And I think the way that they played it out on special, the way they described it on commentary, is for her to break the record, she would actually have to survive the entire show without losing the championship. I don't think they're going to have it necessarily. Well, they can have her possibly tie AJ Lee, but if they have her lose, the championship to Charlotte, that is a way of getting her to tie AJ Lee while at the same time losing the championships. It's just, there's a plethora of scenarios that they could play out. And of course, one thing we did talk about last week was that little seed of a possible heel turn with what happened with Paige last week. And another possible scenario is that they could have Paige interfere, costing Charlotte the match and the championship. But again, there's like a whole plethora of different scenarios that could play out next week. But anyway, on to the main event. New Day and Seth Rollins taking on the Primetime Players and John Cena. As wrestling enthusiasts as we are, and especially as one who does commentary in the Indies here in Louisiana, one of the things that is a true facepalm moment of the night, in my personal opinion, is when fans believe that they have a right to jump the guardrail and be the show. When you attend a wrestling event, you are there to watch a show. You are not there to be the show. You are there to enjoy it and have a good time. Jumping the guardrail, as one idiot did last night, to basically just walk with Seth Rollins, to me, it's insanely stupid. You are there to enjoy a show. That does not mean because you paid a ticket that you have a right to jump the guardrail and try to get your 15 seconds of fame. And to me, that's what this idiotic asshole was doing. He just wanted to walk next to Seth Rollins looking like a complete freaking moron and try to get his 15 seconds of fame. Now, guaranteed, he probably got it because we're actually talking about it, but he's probably going to have a lot of repercussions and consequences for what he's done. And I think probably for one thing, whenever you kind of jump the guardrail like that, they kind of ban you for life from WWE events because, this kind of compromises the safety of the talent in WWE. Because there's been so many instances, and I can even think one recently that just happened of a fan jumping the guardrail, wanting to attack Dean Ambrose and trying to stab him. Fans, all right, and I'm making a special plea to you guys out there. When you go to a wrestling live event, whether it be WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, or any independent wrestling promotion, do not jump the guardrail. Because not only are you putting the talent's safety at risk, you are putting your own safety at risk. You are there to have fun and enjoy a show. You are not there to make yourself look like a complete freaking tool like this guy did last night, Rick.
Yeah,
Rick, check your microphone again.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on several events, several points, excuse me. I don't think anybody should have to jump the guardrail, but I don't think it's going to stop happening. It's happened since probably the dawn of wrestling. And, this guy, whether he was drunk or whether he just said, hey, I just want to be a clown and just, do it. Maybe he was even dared to. I really do understand why WWE acts the way they do and saying, hey, sorry, it ain't happening, get the fuck out. So the way I see it is he probably hurt himself in that situation than anyone else.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, on to the matchup in itself. It was a good match. I don't understand the usage of the trombone other than to make Xavier Woods look incredibly annoying. But it's a good thing he knows how to actually play that, because if he's going out there and just blowing out random shit and making it sound bad, then that would be a completely different thing. But apparently Xavier Woods knows how to play the trombone, so apparently that's a good thing in my opinion. But it was a good match in itself. The finish would be John Cena with the attitude adjustment on Kofi Kingston to pick up the win. So normally at this point in the review, guys and gals, we would have a Raw comment of the week. But there was a problem. Only one person commented on last week's video. That was Ecstasy69. And Rick, I know you know him very well because he's commented quite a lot on our channel. And since he was the only person who commented on last week's review, by default, that makes him the winner of this week's Raw comment of the week. So Ecstasy69 is this week's winner. With that being said, let's go ahead and go to our overall scores and our picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw this week. This week's Monday Night Raw was actually quite interesting. There were a lot of great spots in it. There were kind of spots that kind of made me wonder, what are they doing? Especially with that idiot jumping the guardrail. Overall score, I'm going to give it a 3.75 out of 5. My best match of the night. To me, I'm going to give that to the six-man tag. It was very interesting, to say the least. Worst segment of the night, hands down, is going to go to that idiot jumping the guardrail and making himself look stupid. Again, that's just like a complete insult to true wrestling enthusiasts and wrestling fans who are there to enjoy a show, not to be their show. And I'm going to give an honorary mention to Cesaro doing the running Cesaro uppercut while wearing JBL's cowboy hat. I thought that was actually quite funny. But that's my overall score. Rick, over to you. What's your overall score and your picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw this week?
As an overall, I'm going to give it a 3. I wish I could really say it was a phenomenal show. It wasn't. It was kind of lacklusterish. We saw Edge and Christian. Good to see them, especially next to the Dudleys. That was probably one of the better segments. And then, of course, you had Sting where he, destroyed Seth Rollins' statue. That was great, although I think everybody can say that we expected that sooner or later. But the matches to me just seemed very very, very straight. Just, nothing super impressive, to be honest.
All right, your overall score was?
A 3.
All right, well, we want to know from you guys out there, the viewers and subscribers, your thoughts on Monday Night Raw this week. What are your overall scores? What are your picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw this week? We definitely want to know what you guys out there have to say. Be sure you put your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and favorite this video. Rick, where can fans check you out on HWR?
Of course, you can always find us over on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Hardcore Wrestling Radio. And we also now have an HWI chat room. We have several admins going in there. We are very passionate about wrestling. And of course, we do not sugarcoat anything. So if you are a little bit thin-skinned, you might not want to hang out with us. Of course, you can always subscribe to us over at youtube.com/HWR show. We have podcasts, tribute videos, movie reviews. We even have non-wrestling stuff such as Joe's Real World Rants and much, much more.
Fans, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content and your chance to be this week's Raw Comment of the Week. And the winner will be announced on next week's Monday Night Raw review. But in order to do that, you have to like, comment, and subscribe right here for your chance to be officially recognized on next week's Monday Night Raw review. Also, don't forget to check out WGS-TV on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can also ask me questions. The links will be provided in the description box below. And of course, there will be 2 videos in the annotations at the end of this video for you guys to check out as well. So with that being said, for the hardcore host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, Rick Head, I'm the Wrestle Geek. Don't be able to do Joe saying we'll see ya at the next Warp Zone.
Sir, but not having your way this time. I'm tired of your sweet lies. I would rather those with more honest tongues speak for a change.
Work it, girl. Work it, girl. Work it. Work that.